I think dinosaurs are awesome.
I really like dinosaurs too. Most of us are fascinated by these strange animals. And although many of us call these ancient creatures dinosaurs, some of them are not really dinosaurs. But, regardless of what they're called, they are amazing.
We don't see them anywhere in the world today, so how do we know they ever existed?
We know they once lived because we can study their fossils. So let's start by discussing fossils in general. Then we can move to a recent finding about dinosaurs. As we look at fossils, what do you notice about these remains?
Well, they look like skeletons or shells of animals. But they are not animals that exist anywhere today.
That is what I see too. Like animals around us today, these animals were fully developed complex creatures. As scientists have studied them and reconstructed what they believe to have been their environment, we find that these extinct animals fit into a niche as a part of a complete, interrelated ecosystem.
Since we don't see large numbers of fossils being naturally formed anywhere in the world today, conditions at that time must have been a lot different than they are now.
Yes, it took special conditions to make so many fossils with these characteristics. They would have formed when the plants or animals were quickly buried in sediments in rapidly moving water. And then, as other sediment layers were added on top of them, pressure built and water was squeezed out. The layers hardened into rock with fossils embedded in them.
So, they were made during a flood. And since we see very large fossil layers, it must have been a huge flood. And probably worldwide. As you look around you, where there are cuts in the earth, like in gullies or canyons, or even where roads have been cut through hills, you can see the sedimentary layers nearly everywhere. But finding fossils is relatively rare.
That may be true, but we know of the existence of about 1 billion fossils. However, only about 250 million of them have been registered by the science community.
We like to think of ancient fossils as being those big animals, like the Tyrannosaurs, but actually, most of them are invertebrates from the oceans and seas. You can see a few of them pictured on this slide.
Since they were sea creatures, you might expect their fossils to be in the oceans. But here is a mystery. Their fossils are all on the continents.
These sedimentary layers look like they were laid down in a single, massive, flood event.
Describing the event as massive may be an understatement. Some of these rock layers cover continents. And others cover hemispheres, and some are even worldwide. These layers must have been deposited by a catastrophic, worldwide flood.
You must be referring to the destruction of the world that the Bible tells us occurred during Noah's lifetime. It certainly explains why there are so many fossils of all kinds, animals, plants, and sea creatures, as well as why the marine fossils are on the continents rather than in the ocean floor. We are finally coming to the part that most of us have been anxiously awaiting. Let's talk about the dinosaurs. What do dinosaur fossils really tell us?
It's also important what they don't show us. Dinosaur fossils don't show any transitions between types of animals. All of the fossils are from complete, well-designed animals with fully functional parts. Even though there are about 1 billion known fossils, none of them, not even one, show any evolving animals.
They do tell us there was an amazing variety of life on the Earth in the past. Did I hear someone laugh? Maybe not. But the real question we need to know is, when were these animals alive on Earth?
I did hear someone laugh. And I know who it is. We have a guest with us today to help us answer Grace's question, but first we should briefly think about something else. When we see fossils, we usually only see their bones or shells. Why is that?
It is because the other parts quickly dry up and fall apart, or are destroyed by bacteria or other animals. Normally this only takes a short period of time, weeks, or months, or maybe years. Under special conditions, soft body parts might last thousands of years. There are no known conditions where they can last millions of years. And now for our guest speaker.
Hello, my name is Tyrone A. Saurus.
Tyrone, we are glad to have you with us today. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
When I was about 18 years old and only 40 foot long, I died and was buried in a great flood. Then shortly after the year 2000, my bones were discovered in a remote area called the Hell Creek Formation in Montana. This area is so remote that my bones had to be flown out in a helicopter. However, my femur was too big for the helicopter, so Dr. Mary Schweitzer had to break it to move it. That is when she discovered blood cells and blood vessels still in my bones. So, if I died over 66 million years ago, why are there still soft tissues, including blood vessels and blood cells, in my leg bone that was found?
Tyrone has shared with us some particularly important information. His leg bone contained organic tissue. The picture on this slide shows some of it. Amazingly, it is still flexible and stretchable.
This seems to clearly prove that he didn't die millions of years ago. We believe that he died in the flood some people call Noah's flood. And we think that was probably about 4,500 years ago.
Tyrone is not the only fossil with organic material in it. This chart shows other examples. Some of these were found as early as the 1960s. But some people would not believe that the organic material was part of the original organism. The difference with Tyrone was that Dr. Schweitzer was able to prove that the organic materials were part of the original dinosaur.
And if you search the scientific literature, you can find dozens more examples where the researcher found existing organic tissue material. These all testify to recent fossilization, probably also during Noah's flood. By the way, just for the record, the Tyrannosaurus found by Dr. Schweitzer wasn't really a Tyrone, she was a female.
So, we see that the worldwide fossil record was probably caused by Noah's flood. As we examine those fossils, we find that each shows a unique animal, not a transition between types of animals. Each one was a complex design. All of their parts were fully functional, not transitioning to another type of animal. Comparing the fossils show that they were part of a well-designed ecosystem. And finally, we now have reasons to believe that they were all formed in the past few thousand years.
Can we conclude that the fossil record proves biological evolution? Absolutely not. It provides no evidence that different types of animals evolved from other animals over long periods of time.
The fossil record does show us that there was a worldwide catastrophic flood in Earth's past, and that it destroyed tremendous numbers of many kinds of animal life. But it also documents the flood in a way that we can study it and better understand God's amazing creation.
We have enjoyed our time with you today.
And we hope that you have enjoyed our presentation.
This is Grace
And Andrew saying
goodbye.